Dogs aren't Christmas presents.
Stay. Stay.
A dog is for life, not just for Christmas.
Nope, she's kill switched.
Killer's surprisingly hard to play, but the more I play her on live servers, the more I realize I think she will have the lowest pick rate in the entire game.
No, too depressing.
She's a bit of a sad killer at the moment, but this is by design. The developers intentionally made her very weak so that no one would play her, and judging by the statistics, which say that she's one of the least popular killers ever, it seems like they did the right thing, or at least they got the intended outcome.
Ugh, way too depressing. There really is just nothing good on this Christmas. Well, I did always prefer Halloween. So 2024 is wrapping up, and it's been a memorable year for all of us, the DBD community being no exception. It's been a year full of huge changes to the game, with new modes, new meta-changing perks that have come and gone, and a bunch of new characters to boot. But now's the time to look not back, but forward. And that isn't just because I saved my looking back for my anniversary reviews, which I'm really looking forward to doing this year. Nah, Christmas is the season of giving. After I did this last year, I'm making a Christmas list of things that I would like Behaviour to give to me, in case they feel like not putting coal in my stocking this year. With 2025 on the horizon, this is my list of most wanted features, additions and changes to Dead by Daylight, and content drops I want to see for the year to come. Dear Behaviour, this is what I want for Christmas. My first wish here is a big one, and the release of the Doomed Course chapter has affirmed to me that it is really what I want. We know the first two killers of next year are going to be licensed. A licensed solo killer coming in March, followed by the FNAF chapter coming in the anniversary. Once we get those, I would like the following two chapters to both be originals. But if a third license must happen, let that be the last chapter of the year so we can get a high quality original in the third release slot of 2025. Just so we don't have 3 licenses in a row. Don't get me wrong, I like a good licensed chapter, but if it's an IP I don't really care about, with a killer I don't get a lot out of, then it may as well be an empty release for me, because there's just nothing there for me most of the time. And based on what we know and what's been leaked for the first half of next year, the next 2 chapters don't sound like something that I'll enjoy either. I don't care for FNAF, and if the leaks for the March killer are true, I don't really care for that IP either. Unless the powers really click with me, or the original Survivor coming in April is something really special, I suspect my interest in DBD is going to plummet over the next 6 months, and I want originals with fun stories and characters that I can sink my teeth into when that dry spell is over. We've had so much licensed content lately and a relative drought of original content, so I don't think that's too much to ask for. When the FNAF anniversary comes, we'll have had 9 licensed content drops over the past 2 years compared to only 4 original drops. And as someone who cares about the integrity of DBD's universe, that just feels wrong to me. I really want a 50-50 balance of original and licensed chapters in 2025, and if we must get only one original, let it be a great one, in the August-September released window, the same one that Dracula occupied this year.
Which brings me on to my next wish. It's kind of a backup wish, but if there has to be a third license in 2025, I'd really like to see Terrifier, Predator, or the casting of Frank Stone.
Frank Stone is kind of a no-brainer. He's already a part of DBD's universe to the point I'd basically consider him an original killer at this point, even though technically he'd be licensed out to Supermassive. He's a killer pre-cooked for the Entity's realm, and adding him in sooner rather than later would really just make sense, I think. Isn't that Supermassive can do anything with them anyway? Frank Stone would make the most sense for a third licensed killer by far, but if we're talking about my most wanted license, then at the moment I think it's Terrifier. After Terrifier 3 rocked the box office and impressed more than its fair share of critics, Art the Clown has proven himself as a force majeure in the horror world and a modern icon worthy of its place in the fog. According to Steve Barton, a producer on Terrifier 2, Art in DBD looks like he might be more of a when than an if. The language in this tweet suggests that Terrifier's biggest roadblock is simply finding time for the chapter's release among DBD's other releases, and that when it comes to a Terrifier chapter, Behaviour is on board. So I reckon with time, Art in the Fog is a near certainty. I wouldn't necessarily expect it in 2025 though. A 2026 release would give Behaviour the means to work through their backlog, and would also coincide with a planned release of Terrifier 4 in the same year. So while I would like to see a Terrifier chapter next year, I don't particularly expect it. However, there is one name that comes to mind if you were to get a third licensed chapter in 2025. Predator. Predator in DBDs felt like a near certainty since the Alien chapter released, with that skin for Xenomorph that shows a Xeno scarred with a Predator's razor net. The same leaks that gave us the Rain Carradine skin, the Juggernaut Xenomorph and Spacesuit Ripley outfits also alluded to Predator in DBD, since the same guy controls the rights to both franchises, and a fourth quarter Predator chapter would coincide with the theatrical release of Predator Badlands, the upcoming Predator movie due to come out on November the 7th, 2025. The stars are aligning to support the idea of a Predator chapter coming to DVD about this time next year, and in the event of a third licensed chapter next year, I don't just hope we get a Predator, I fully expect it.
But there's more to Dead by Daylight than just new characters, because there are important features and changes that the game desperately needs, even disregarding new content drops. And this one might be hotly contested, because I believe Dead by Daylight needs to get rid of killing yourself on hook.
For a while now, we've been in the middle of a give-up epidemic. Survivors just throwing in the towel because they got hooked first with Deliverance, or had a bad first chase, or their Badam offering got sack-warded, or they're going against a killer released between Trapper and Houndmaster. Behaviour spent a while now effectively ignoring the problem as best they can, preferring the option, as Peanut said in January, to address the reasons people go next instead of trying to stop them doing it. The past year of changes has reflected this philosophy. Thanks to strong perks like Shoulder the Burden, We're Gonna Live Forever and Off the Record, and base kit features like Base BT and Anti-Camp, the most destructive behaviour killers can do, like tunnelling, slugging, 3genning and camping, have all never been weaker. S-tier killers and killer aggression perks have gotten nerfed, annoying killers have been reworked or destroyed, and despite all of that, the issue has only gotten worse. Behaviour has bent over backwards to accommodate player entitlement, but the game's groaning with the amount of carrots they're dangling and it just isn't working. Maybe it's high time to break out the sticks. No, you can't force people who don't want to play the game, but you can make them waste enough of their own time that they can't move on easily to ruin somebody else's game. It's not fair that someone can give up on Hook, move on to the next game with their full blood points and archive challenge progress, ready to ruin the next lobby, while the 4 players whose match they wrecked are still stuck in that match. The experience of the 4 players who chose to stay in the game is by default more important than the 1 player who said they were going to, but decided they couldn't be bothered, and obviously the nuclear option is just to remove attempting to unhook yourself altogether, only keeping it in the case of the base kit anti-camp or perks like Deli, Slippery Meat and Wicked. It would prevent newer players from accidentally staging themselves and sabotaging their own matches by trying to unhook themselves, at least without perks to help them do it, and prevent established players from gaming the DC system by giving up on Hook. It's a clean solve for the issue, but if the mechanic must be kept for the sake of luck offerings or what have you, you could just rework the luck itself and move the attempt to the last 10 seconds of the stage, so you have to sit through the minute on Hook before you can try to unhook yourself. Behaviour added 10 seconds of stages out of nowhere. May as well put them to good use, right? It's become transparently obvious now that disconnecting and giving up on Hook for no good reason is as much or more a cultural issue of entitlement than a symptom of legitimate grievances. It makes playing the game in any way that isn't a swift and unattractive prospect when there's a significant chance that one player's going to throw in the towel, throw their toys out the pram and ruin the game for everyone else. Replace it with a vote surrender system after 5 minutes or something if you have to. Just stop people giving up so easily. It's pathetic.
Okay, all this talk of entitlement and unpleasantness is a bit of a bummer for the holidays, so let's continue with something a bit more optimistic. Something I want that might actually happen, and that we'll be seeing soon. I want the Freddy rework to be a success, both in terms of theme and in terms of gameplay.
Freddy right now is an awful killer. His gameplay is bare bones and the kind of thing loads of other killers do better, and on top of that he's not even interesting or thematic. Spilling cranberry juice on the floor and getting 4-staged isn't exactly evocative of playing one of horror's biggest icons. I made a video a little while ago talking about what I want Freddy's rework to look like, but the good part about Freddy is that his power set is so open-ended. As long as it has the survivors slipping in and out of the dream world in a way that feels right, you can kind of stick on whatever weird and wacky power set you like, and it'll work with Freddy if integrated properly. Dead by Daylight have done a solid job with power designs lately, but aside from Unknown and sort of Vecna, I guess they've all been various iterations on Dash Killers, so I'm really excited for whatever beautiful weirdness Freddy's rework might bring to the fog.
There's a couple of smaller things I'd be interested in seeing as well, the first being a shake-up and new theme for the Dead by Daylight anniversary.
The Twisted Masquerade was a fun way to tie the anniversary together over the past few years, with the new character the Mad Designer messing with the trials, adding her own flair and ultimately making her own appearance in the flesh. But she's been doing this for 3 years now. The theme and gameplay are both kinda getting old. Trix was a cool character on paper, but then she left paper. In my opinion, she was very poorly integrated into the event, and there's not really many places you can go from here. The anniversary special powers are kinda bland and often poorly thought through, and it doesn't help that we're running out of characters to give anniversary masks to. There are only 2 original killers without masks, Wraith and Houndmaster, and while there's still half a dozen survivors who don't yet have one, that's still not exactly enough to carry a whole event. You can always give the rest of the masks out without the masquerade being the event theme, in the same way that characters get blighted outfits every year without the blight event being the Halloween theme. Refresh the theme, have some new ideas. It's been 3 years now, and that's how long the blight events lasted before they got old and got replaced. A 4th masquerade year in a row would feel stagnant and boring, so a new theme for this year's anniversary would be much appreciated.
And the last little thing I want to see isn't, related to the game at all, but does anybody else remember when Blumhouse said they were making a Dead by Daylight movie?
It got announced over a year ago, and since then we've had Jack with a side order of shit in terms of news. No release date, no idea of the plot or characters, no cast and crew details, nothing. I get that Blumhouse is busy on the FNAF sequel right now, but that's releasing in December 2025. It'll be effectively off their plate by the anniversary next year, so they had to at least have made some progress with the film pre-production. I'm really looking forward to seeing what that movie has in store, so let us see it. James Wan is done with the Conjuring series now, so I'm hoping he's attached to direct the DVD movie, but at this point I'll take any cast or crew news at all. Just give me something to get excited for about it, okay?
And that about wraps up my Christmas list for this year. I can't really think of anything else I want to see, so unless I've missed something... Wait, no, hang on a second, I have missed something. Yeah, okay, never mind. Forget everything I have just said, because there's only one thing that I really want for Christmas next year. Everything I've said so far is pointless. It doesn't matter to me, not one bit, so long as they get this next thing right. There's only one thing I want for Christmas. I want my killer back.
Yeah, I know you're probably tired of me whining about Skull Merchant, and it's why I saved it till the end. But my favourite killer got brutalised this year, to the point she's widely considered the worst killer in the game. She's going to be left there for most of 2025. She did need changes, but the extreme severity of the changes she got only happened because the outcry against her was so bad. To put it bluntly, because people whined loud enough. What that tells me is that whining about a character gets them massive sweeping changes, so if it worked for them to get my killer beaten to death in the street, then logically it should work for me to get her fixed again, right? But if the rework is a full-scale reconstruction of the character, that's probably even worse than leaving her the way she is, because to the people who enjoy playing her, there's nothing else that plays like her, nothing else that could scratch that itch. To bulldoze that, to bulldoze DBD's first trap killer in 8 years and replace it with just another mid-range owner or whatever else they're doing, it'd be a waste, a criminal waste of Merchant's mechanic identity and gameplay fantasy, and an abandonment of the few people still playing her down in the doldrums of D tier, like me. If they can put Merchant right and get her where she should be, you could literally feed the rest of this list into a paper shredder for all I care. Make the last 2 chapters license crossovers with Jeepers, Creepers and fucking Brexit for all I care. Just fix my killer. So, in summation, I don't know how to feel about another year of Dead by Daylight. 2024 has been a year full of not necessarily misses for me, but forgettable releases, punctuated with occasional brilliance to remind me that it's still possible for DBD to release things I'm excited about. The most memorable part of the year, at least for the moment, is the execution of my favourite killer. Of course I'm not going to be happy with DBD's current state right now. 2025, at least the first half of it, seems kinda like more of the same. I hope I'm wrong, but my enthusiasm is a bit lacking. Houndmaster's brilliant though, an absolute home run of a character. They can still make cool original characters and fun powers, so all is not lost.
Guess we'll have to wait and see, because one thing that Dead by Daylight and Behaviour have proven this year is that we should expect the unexpected. Whatever they've got planned, I'm sure none of us are seeing it coming. Have a relaxing Christmas, and I'll see you in the next one. Ta-ta for now.